Everyone, today we're talking about how the Psalms of disorientation or lament work. How long, O Lord, will you forget me forever? How long will you hide your face from me? How long must I bear pain in my soul and have sorrow in my heart all day long? How long will my enemy be exalted over me? Consider and answer me, O Lord, my God. Give light to my eyes, or I will sleep the sleep of death. And my enemy will say, I have prevailed. My foes will rejoice because I am shaken. But I trusted in your steadfast love. My heart shall rejoice in your salvation. I will sing to the Lord because he has dealt bountifully with me. So in these types of psalms, the world is no longer as it was. The stable foundation that we saw in the Psalms of Orientation has fallen out from under us. Our default, our expectation is that life should be good if God is good. But what about when that's not the case? What about when normal is not normal? Or when God doesn't meet our expectations? So in these Psalms of Lament, these are people coming to a God they trust in, and they know that if I'm experiencing this, I can't ignore it. It has to be brought to God. And what we see, as we saw yesterday, there's a structure to this. This is not just, shouting at the wind and just a bunch of whining. So we see that structure here in Psalm 13 pretty well in these short 6 verses. It starts with an address, which a lot of times it is just something like, "Oh God, oh Lord," but it's from someone that they're close to. This is a God that they know, but they're kind of short and to the point because they have things to say. And then there's the complaint. Whatever is going wrong, God needs to hear about it. Here it's this idea of God being far away. You'll hear language of God hiding his face or being silent. The absence of God, in some sense, is kind of always the root of the problem, whether it's our own sin or our enemies or something else. And so then after they've made their complaint, they'll have a plea. This is what they want, or what they expect God to do about it. And here he's basically saying, help me or I'm going to die. Now, I think maybe the most interesting part of the lament psalms is the next part, which is the motivation. You see that in verse 4 here. This is giving God a reason why God should act. Now, those reasons sometimes are noble, but sometimes it sounds like bargaining or bribing or almost intimidating God. A lot of times what they do is put God's reputation on the line, right? I said this about you, but this is happening, right? What are people going to say about you, Lord? And so it's making their problem God's problem, right? And so here the idea is you can't let the bad guys win, right? They're talking bad about me and I'm faithful to you. So what are you going to do, Lord? But then also, maybe most importantly, the Psalms of Lament almost always end with a note of confidence or praise. They know they've been heard. They know God hears them. And so God is going to act. They know who God is. They know what God does, how God cares. And if God has acted in the past, God will continue to act. Laments are the largest category of Psalms in the whole book. But how often do we sing songs like this? How often do we publicly pray like this? I think a lot of times the church is singing songs of orientation to a disoriented world. And it's not just coming from faith, but maybe it's just the blind, wishful optimism of our culture. Laments are the language of a real relationship. Admitting that we feel like this seems like a lack of faith, but in fact what we're going to see is that is actually the deepest, boldest faith that can say this to a God we trust.